folks are in the same time zone as us, but I know there would be people from different time zones as well, where their day is just getting started while we get prepared to wrap up ours. Oh, we have someone from Bangalore, someone from Austin, Texas. Good morning. Thank you for joining us. Yep, we have folks from all over joining us today. Just another minute before we get started. We have someone from Budapest. We have someone from Pakistan. I really like the diversity that's coming in. Um, so I think we can get started and we can just let more people join in. Today we are this is the AMA, so thank you so much for joining us today. I appreciate everyone taking out the time from the day, either they're starting the day or closing the day and joining us today. And I'll just give a one-line introduction about myself. But before that, let me just tell you today it's all about Sachin and the amazing company and the product that he's built out. We want to talk about how it went from being a side project to an acquisition and entire journey of his brain baby, which is Requestly. So my name is Puja Jagani. I'll be the host for today. I'm a developer advocate uh, at BrowserStack, and we have Sachin with us. He's the guest of honor today, so the entire spotlight is all on him. Over to you, Sachin. Please tell us a little bit about yourself.
Thank you, Puja. Hey everyone, thank you for joining in. Myself Sachin, and I was the co-founder and CEO of Requestly, and I'm group product manager here at BrowserStack. I have roughly 13 years of industry experience. Before Requestly, I worked at Blinkit, which is a 10 minutes delivery platform in India. I worked at Blinkit for a couple of years. Before Blinkit, I did a failed startup, and before that, I spent roughly 7 years at Adobe. And during my course of 13 years of industry experience, I have built and failed with multiple side projects before Requestly came into existence and gave life. We went to Y Combinator with Requestly in Winter 22, and I'll be sharing that experience as well. And we closed multiple enterprise customers before joining BrowserStack in March this year. I think that's a bit about me. I'm very excited to be here and answer your questions.
Thank you so much, Sachin. That's amazing. Today I learned that my first company was Adobe. And so I had no idea we have a common company alumni that we share at some point. But good to know about your journey. And I think we're about to uncover a lot more on it today as well. So just some housekeeping items before we start jumping into things. So today's session will be 45 minutes. The session is recorded. The recording will be shared with everyone who's registered. You will be getting the recording after. And because it's an AMA and we want to make sure it's a smooth flow for our guest who's come in, all participants are muted. So basically, so that we can go without interruptions. But since it's an AMA and even in general, we highly encourage you to send in as many questions as you can through our Q&A window. I will be manning it with all my heart. So please send in all your questions that you have for Sachin about his amazing journey, and we'll make sure we have that answered. Again, it's an AMA. We're here to answer all your questions. And I think before we kickstart this, I would like to talk a little bit about our Discord community. So, like I said, we're doing this for the community. That's you folks that have joined in. So, to keep the momentum going, we have a BrowserStack Discord community that's been flourishing. I think we would have over 1,500 members. And we keep doing a lot of fun things. We have Wisdom Wednesdays, we have some things happening on Fun Fridays, all our webinar announcements, meetup announcements, everything is on Discord. You'll also find me out there. You'll find Sachin out there. You'll find other speakers from our webinars hanging out there in general to ask more questions or just have very insightful discussions or even learn from each other, right? So highly encourage everyone to quickly scan the QR code and join our Discord to get the best out of community. It's then all about you to help you out. Okay. Thank you, folks, for keeping up with us while we just get this warmed up. And again, I'll be manning the Q&A section, so please send in your questions. But I think, Sachin, I had a question for you, right? So, um, because you said that, it's gone from like a side project to like a main thing. uh, what did the first version of Requestly look like, right? Like, and what made you realize, and you had that bulb moment that, oh wow, this is no longer a side project and this could go full throttle and make it so big?
Yeah, it's a very good question, Puja. Thank you for asking. So I was at Adobe and I was a front-end developer back then, and I was debugging a production issue. And it had been roughly 7, 8 hours since I had been debugging that issue. And it was a P0 issue. And it was related to JavaScript code. And the problem was that JavaScript in the production environment or the production website was minified. So it was very hard for me to debug the issue because the code was minified. So I was not able to put breakpoints properly in the Chrome developer tools. And I was not able to alter logs, like put some more logs, etc. I had some Chrome extension experience, so I quickly searched for a particular API that can help me swap a JavaScript running on a live website. So within 30 minutes, back then, AI didn't exist. So I had to manually write all the code, but it was a very scripted Chrome extension without any layer of UI that just lets me load a local version of JavaScript into the production website.
Okay.
Like everything hard coded, no UI. I
Hmm.
loaded it into my Chrome browser and then I started debugging it. And I initially called it JS redirector, right? Because it was doing just one thing, which is redirecting JavaScript. And with the help of this plugin, can you guess how much time did I take to solve the issue? It was, just next 30 minutes, I was able to solve the issue,
Wow,
which,
that's fast.
yeah, which I was not able to solve for the last 8 hours, right? So in totality, 1 hour, half hour of, sharpening the X and half hour cutting down the tree. So when I did this, I felt like very relieved, and I thought a lot of front-end developers would be benefited from this project. So over the weekend, I just built a very plain version of UI on top of it and just launched into Chrome Store. And you know, one of the things that stuck with me during the course of the journey was one thing I did accidentally right is not focusing on the uh, non-core things. For example, I did not think about a fancy name, right? I did not think about a logo, or I just downloaded a random image from the internet and use that as a logo. I did not buy the domain name. I did not have a landing page. I just launched the project on Chrome Store. I just shared that on my. I think I was not active on LinkedIn back then. I shared it on Facebook and I answered a couple of questions on Stack Overflow, which I found that other people were also struggling with. And that was my only GTM strategy. Uh, and then I noticed that, my teammates started using the product, and then other teams in Adobe also started using the product, which was sign of product market fit. I did not know the word product market fit back then. And few months down the line, it started gaining organic traction, and I started receiving appreciation emails, feature requests, and also contributions on GitHub.
Okay.
Without spending any dollars, the project was growing, and I really enjoyed it, because I just built it for myself, and I kept doing it as I, faced more problems during my web development. I added those features, and I just, kept building it for myself. So that was my, main motivation as well to, continue with that.
Oh wow. I mean, that sounds amazing. So, but that's a very incredible journey, to be honest, to come across a bug and then find something and realize that, oh, there's a common problem that can be solved for everyone. And it's really good that you actually developed something. You took the time and you were able to kind of um, get to it, and it started gaining traction in ways that you did not even expect because of just the functionality or the sheer usability of what you had in mind. So like you said, it took you an hour roughly, is and with it on an average like a 30 minutes of things, because just the polishing part was the next 30 minutes of it. So um, can you dig deeper into that and like tell us, was there something you left out deliberately, right? Like you said, you had few things hard coded, like things like that. But I'm sure there's more to it.
Yes, yes. Like, of course, like when I was building the first version, I did not have the liberty of time, thankfully, right? So I was just purely focused on one core problem, which is I wanted to debug the issue, and for that I need this capability, right? So initially, my JavaScript code within the Chrome extension itself was like less than 100 lines, literally, right? And it had just one function that when you encounter this URL, which was also hard coded, when you encounter this URL, just swap it with the localhost 8080 main.js, right? Again, that's very hard coded, right? No generalization, nothing. And I just made sure that with this configuration, my core problem gets solved, right?
Okay.
But after that, I think I had to make decisions because at that time I was not launching it. I had to deliberately leave out a few things when launching. For example, I mentioned about logo, right? Building a logo is really easy these days. Back then there was no AI, nothing. Right? If you don't have image editing skills, it was very hard. So what I just did was I just went to free logo website and downloaded the first icon that I thought is relevant for the product requestly, right? And just use it as it is. But then you also have multiple variations of logo. You have a long logo, you have a square logo, everything, right? That's also a requirement when you submit to Chrome as a Chrome extension. The other thing that I did, because I was a developer, I literally used CSS to basically write a fancy text, like colored text, and took a screenshot and use that as a logo for so long. I did not invest too much time in thinking about that. Did not invest too much time in thinking about a fancy name, a good name, right? When I introduced the product requestly to people, right now it doesn't sound weird, but I literally got this question from the people that what does this name mean? Requestly, it just sounds very weird, right? But I did not like focus on non-core things. And similarly, when you have to like build a product, I think it's a very general problem. You get hundreds of ideas that you can add to your product. So I just restricted myself to building something which I desperately need in my workflow. Like I mentioned, I just kept building it for myself, or unless it came from an external user or customer that I need this feature and this would be helpful. Right? So I just cut out all the noise, just focus on the core value of the product and just keep doubling down on that.
Yeah, but I think that sounds amazing because I think that's a very good principle that most people need to follow in terms of trying to boil the ocean and kind of focus on the core features that needs to be done instead of trying to get everything. And it's also a way, and I think my manager says this often, like don't let the perfect be the enemy of good,
Exactly.
which is what kind of pushes things forward, right? Yeah, so I think that's pretty cool. And I think one thing I really like about your project is open source because I have been an open source engineer for the last 5 years. So it's really where my heart and soul lies. So the thing about open source is it's all about freedom, right? It's reusability, it's freedom. It's a very different model altogether. But then if one is trying to think about more on a business side, right? There's more it's more structured, focus, a different kind of mindset is required. And to merge the two because they're opposing forces to some extent. Sometimes they sit together well, but they're pretty much in very different school of thoughts. So, how did you kind of balance the two to make sure Requestly grows out to be what it is today?
Yeah, yeah. I think this is also very subjective, to be honest, and depends on product to product. We did open source for a reason because first of all, it was a developer product, and coming from developer experience, I know that people like and trust, especially developers like open source products, right?
Mhm.
And second, it was also a way for us to give back to the community, right? I always wanted Requestly to be a product which can teach other developers a lot, just not just about the coding, but also about the industry practices that are being followed, right? Uh, and people like it also empowers developers to understand, how the code is written, how a certain functionality is being built, etc. That was the core philosophy. And the way it is balanced is by following, an open code model, right? Where you decide, that you want to keep like most of the things in the free plan, like open source edition, while still have some things which are valuable to the businesses, not individuals, right? So this is where we draw a line that if something is helpful to individual developers, users, like push in the free plan open source edition. If something helps teams or helps businesses, achieve their goals, then push it in the sort of uh, behind the fencing.
Okay. Okay. But I think that's a good tip. That's a good thought process to have, I think. And just exactly relating to this, I think we have a question. Yep. So how can someone make, okay, so how can someone make a meaningful contribution to open source? Like, how can they make their first cost contribution? How can they get started and then make sure that it's valuable to the project?
Yeah, I think it's a very good question, and I guess all developers who are especially in their early years want to contribute to open source projects. So whoever it is, thank you for asking this. I think first thing that is very important when you decide to contribute to an open source product is to find the right product. And ideally, like if I have to do this, I will try to find a product that I use myself almost every day or every week,
Mm.
right? It could be like, for example, it could be a Notion alternative, or it could be an Airtable alternative, or it could be something which I as a developer or as a user use it, right? Because then it makes you curious. Okay, how is this feature working? How is the design of this feature written? How is this scalable? How is this collaboration happening? You get so many questions while you use the product. And on the right side, you have the source code available. And on extreme right, you also have now AI available, right? The first thing that you should do is leverage the AI and understand the code structure or code base. You know, before just thinking about contributing, think about understanding, or being a part of the team. This is how onboarding a new teammate also happens in a team, right? You assign them a small bug, which helps them understand the code base, understand the file structure, and help them ask the right questions. So now you can literally use AI to explore the code base and ask the questions yourself. For example, like which files contain code for this particular feature, right? And try to do a mental mapping of those features, right? And once you have like some understanding, then there are two tips, right? After that, uh, most open source projects have issues with label good first issue. So try to find those and see what is maybe 2 to 3 issues that you can potentially pick up. Ideally, start with one, right? That is one thing. And second is, if you have a leverage of a friend, start it with a friend, because it will keep you motivated. If your friend is able to contribute, he will be able to uh, make it understand to you, and vice versa, right? So doing it together like a community will help. Fourth is join the community. If that open source product has a community, be it Discord or Slack, join that, so that when you are trying to contribute, you can ask the questions about the practices. Like if you're contributing, there could be TypeScript practices, JavaScript practices that they follow in the product. So if you submit a PR which doesn't follow these practices, like it will be thrown off completely, right? So
Yeah,
those
I
are four
think
things I would say.
no, but that makes a lot of sense because again, since I come from open source world, you're right about the sense of community. It's really important to have that, and it's kind of a driving factor as well, right? So if you say have a friend or a colleague, or even if you see someone from the community contributing, and where they've gotten, or even hear their stories, it's highly motivating for someone to get started. Um, and I think you give us a good way to navigate a new project, pretty much how most people would think about file where the core functionality is, map it to its exact location, so you feel a little bit more confident. And I definitely agree. I think it's a big responsibility for the open source project owners to give like mark the first good bugs for people to get started, because otherwise something like Hacktober comes in and then people like to make small changes, versus when there are labeled issues, you can get like meaningful contributions, which is really amazing to have. And how do you kind of, I think this is the question that I have. How do you kind of envision this um, extending further to say someone who's a non-seasoned developer, right? Say someone who's interning or they're in their school and they're still about to graduate and they're still looking at courses, but they're still um, trying to explore the open source world to kind of find their feet, right? How would you suggest they would should get started, right?
Yeah. I think I would take a step back with all the tips I just threw. Basically, if you're in a school or you're just getting started, I think first thing you should do is to learn to code, right? And build your own projects, right? Only after that, contributing to an open source project, which is mostly going to be a little complicated and navigating the code base, etc., will make sense. But before that, I think build at least 3, 4 projects yourself, understand the technology, because if the open source project is being maintained or developed by seasoned developers, they will be using good concepts of that technology. So you will have some understanding when you decide to contribute. So build 3, 4 projects, uh, and ideally keep them open source, right? So that you understand how to maintain open source projects as well, and then jump into the open source world.
Okay. Thank you for sharing that with us, Sachin. And I think pivoting a little bit, I always kind of wonder because most of the times there are a group of founders for a product because I don't think solo journeys are easy at all. I'm sure it's never a straight line graph. There is a wave that goes through in different aspects. So, you know, how did you constantly stay motivated and kept going? Because again, I think it's when there's more than one person involved that is a little back and forth. But when you're alone, it's just all your willpower that you have to kind of continue pushing forward with this product that you strongly believe in.
Yeah, I think there are a couple of reasons for this. One is I always build requestly for myself, so that helped me dog food the product all the time, right? I was building it, I was using it. Then, sometimes I just did not like the experience, although it was, solving the problem, but I did not like the intuition or the user experience. I just changed it all over again. So I just continuously improved it till it satisfied my experience and curiosity needs, right? I just wanted it to be very simple. Like, I just kept it simple all the time. And second is I recently read it somewhere, which stuck home, is motivation is a function of results. In case of Requestly, because luckily, organically, it got traction, there was results, and hence motivation was there. Like you're getting feature requests, you're getting Chrome store reviews, you were getting sort of interest, that how does this feature work? I want to customize it to in a different way, right? So all those kind of requests we're getting. That keeps you pumped up, that keeps you engaged without thinking about what's the end result, right? And that's very important when you actually build something or when you do something for long term. If you tie yourself to the result that this is what you want from this input, right? Then and you don't get that outcome, then you get demotivated like really easily. Fortunately, in my case, because these two things happened simultaneously, I built the product for myself, and I was actually learning a lot while building the product, because I come from engineering background, but building the product teaches you so many skills apart from engineering. You have to think from a user perspective. You have to think about user experience. You have to think about a little bit about adoption as well. You have to learn about creating YouTube videos as well. You have to learn about writing articles, everything. So I was literally enjoying that process, which kept me motivated, and simultaneously there were results, and there was no hope of getting some fruit out of this effort.
Okay. I think that makes sense. It's more about staying in the present and going with the flow. And like you said, when things are going your way, it's always very motivating to push forward, especially when you see there are people who are actually asking for features or changes or fixes that would really make their lives easier, right? So I think when we talk about people, and this just popped in my head, it's what was the target persona that you were trying to kind of, I know you're trying to help yourself and the problems that you have, but I think as you build this bigger and as you scaled your product, right? So, um, what was the target persona that you were eyeing, or what do you think was the ideal person in a engineering workflow or testing workflow that would get the most out of it, that would benefit the most from your product?
Yeah, yeah. So it has evolved over time, but initially it was targeted towards web developers, and it was present only in the as a form of Chrome extension, right? And my idea was that as a developer, I just want to engage with two things. One is my IDE, second is
Mhm.
browser. I don't want to go anywhere else, right? I want to write code, I want to test code in my browser, and I want to see things working. And Requestly being present as a Chrome extension directly in Chrome, you know, simplified a lot of things for web developers because they don't have to go to any other third-party tool or third interface when they are doing their local development and testing, right? That was the core essence. But over time, we actually shipped Requestly for mobile developers as well in the form of desktop application, and then built another product called API Client, and we expanded it to backend developers as well. So today, Requestly targets entire backend developers, web developers, mobile developers, and backend developers. But it happened over time
No,
across.
but that's amazing. I think I love to see when there is a product that fits so many personas where people can use it in different ways, and especially when it saves so much time. Oh God, I think developer productivity is a huge topic to be spoken about, but that's a different ball game altogether. So, but and I like how, because I think because eventually the way, like, the ball was rolling and you were able to target different personas, you were able to scale massively, right? Like you went from 100 users to like hundreds and thousands of users. So that's a huge scale of users that you were able to do. So what do you think were like the key factors or the key levers that kind of helped get to that stage and to kind of also sustain it from a product end, right? So building a scalable product is another beast itself.
Yeah, yeah. I think one of the key uh, characteristics of a product that comes from the founder's DNA is the simplicity. So we always focused on being simple, right? We cut down the corners. If it is not really understandable, then we just spend more time to make it more simple, like make it more intuitive, right? So being simple is one of the core strengths of the product, and that comes from the as evident from the Chrome Store reviews as well. So if you go to the Chrome Store reviews, I recently made a LinkedIn post that we crossed 1,300 reviews with more than 75 to 80% of 4 to 5 star reviews, right? And then when I, passed on all this data to ChatGPT, I think one of the things that came from the words of the users is simplicity, right? That's number one. Second is when I was building a product, when I was building a company, I always wanted to build a company uh, where people not just love your product, but they love the company behind it, right? So one of the things that we do really well is provide exceptional support. Right? In fact, it was one of my KPIs that I will do at least 2 customer calls every week, and it might not be a paid customer, free customer, free user as well. Just want you to interact with that, right? Right. So basically, we made that kind of a organization level shift that you want to think about users, you want to have those interactions, and irrespective if they need little support, we'll provide that. Right. So we wanted that our users to stand behind us. Right. Third thing is, think we prioritize customer requests, and of course there is a lot of subjectivity to it, and every company and product does it differently. But our approach has always been that if a customer is asking for a feature, right, then we don't go in the analysis paralysis that how many customers will also need that, right? And if that feature is belongs to the product, if it is already in the roadmap, right, we want to surprise that customer by shipping it fast. We want to provide delight to that customer that they have asked for it and we delivered it. So we have always followed this approach, and I can count instances in terms of that how it has worked wonders for us. And it's very difficult to prove objectively that if you follow this approach, it will work, right? And sometimes you'll get advice that you might create a product which is tailored for a particular customer, etc., etc. Of course, this is where you have to also put your product head and decide that whether you want to build this feature or not. If you want to build this feature today or tomorrow, and if a customer is asking for it, then I'll build it tomorrow or today, right away, right now, right? So we make all those changes in our roadmap on the fly, right? Not we didn't think in terms of quarters, right? If something has to be built, we just pick it right away. So I would say, in to summarize this, being simple, providing the best user experience, exceptional support, and prioritizing customers.
Yeah, and I think that's great because customer obsession and being where your customers are is a very, very good and a rare thought to have, to be honest, in general. But for any product to be successful, it's very important to kind of empathize with them and make your customer's voice heard, which is again very rare. So I really appreciate how you would get on a customer call to first hand understand what their pain points are. Because I think if for developers at the end, you're trying to solve pain points for other developers or personas out there, which is amazing. Just halting a little bit because we have a question in the chat box. Thank you for the question, Swaraj. How did you get into product management from front end developer? And as product manager, how do you see the product life cycle so far?
Yeah. Thank you, Swaraj. So basically, as an engineer, I wrote most of the code in Requestly, but as we expanded the team, it became very hard for me to write the code. So I think it was roughly early 2022 when I built the last feature in Requestly, which was graphical knocking. And since then, I've been, wearing multiple hats, like product hat, salesperson hat, growth person hat, and sometimes, code review guy as well, right? So out of all those things, being a founder, sometimes you have to really focus on one core aspect, which you are really good at, right? And then, delegate the other things. But I really wanted to own one aspect of the product or one function, right? So I decided that product is something that I'm really passionate about, and I really like building products, and I like building opinionated products. So it was very difficult for me to understand if I hire someone and they're taking product decisions and I'm not aware of it, right? And I asked this question for other functions as well. For example, if I've delegated, let's say, sales and marketing to someone else. If someone is giving results that that we're getting this much in revenue in sales, I said, would be fine. Just tell me a little bit about the approach. Would be fine. Right? Similarly in growth, but in terms of product, if someone is building a feature, I just get very curious. Okay, how does this look like in the product? Who has asked for it? What is the problem being solved? Right. So I think it's in the DNA that I wanted to be closer to the product. That's why I chose product management and that's how the transition from the developer to the product happened. Your next part is, as product manager, how do you see the product life cycle so far? I think it's pretty much same, like as I was doing it earlier. Although now there are multiple people involved because there are developers, there's also QA, there's also design person involved. So it definitely takes a more time than just being myself shipping out the feature. But I see there is a lot of sort of professionalism, better polish, better UX, etc. And I'm involved in the entire process. And the process looks like we define PRD, which is project requirement document, and then everyone contributes on this central document, right? So basically, engineers also define, that how the approach will look like, what will be the UATs. We also put the Figma link directly there. Everything becomes a part of the central document. So, yeah, does that answer your question, Suraj?
I think I'll just wait for him to. Yeah, I guess it should. But thank you. That was a nice answer for anyone to learn or get gig, like gain insights into how your journey looked like in that transition as well. Now I have a little different question because I always like to see that because like I'm open source developer at Selenium, so we have seen the weirdest use cases. where people use their product to solve their problems. So I think I want to kind of relay that question to you because so what's the weirdest use case that you've seen people use Requestly for, where you were like, whoa, I did not see that coming, or you just like laugh at it because you're fascinated just by people's creativity, if you have something like that to share.
Yeah, I think there are multiple use cases that comes to mind, but I would highlight a couple of them. One is non-developer use case, which is gaming use case. So basically, Requestly has a feature called overriding API responses and script injection. So people have uh, changed the skin of their players using Requestly, and they looked pretty cool. You know, that okay, I'm playing with this player, and I don't know how they configure their Requestly configuration with this, but they somehow managed to change their gaming, web gaming experience with Requestly and show off, right? So there are multiple YouTube videos with that about that. And second is, which is sort of a corporate use case slash developer use case. It was auto sign in. So like I mentioned, Requestly has a scripting feature. So one of the customers have a login interface after which their internal application gets opened. And in order to log in, they had to generate an authentication token. They had some sort of internal weird process. They had to generate the weird API token and then put that API token into the UI, and then we can enter into that internal application. The problem for the team, internal development and QA team, was it was too painful to always generate the token and then put into this, right? So what they did was they used Requestly to automate this process, and they're also a paying customer. They just use Requestly and they pay for this feature because it takes one pain away from their life. Right? And third is, which was sort of surprise to me, we were in the Y Combinator batch, and it was like very busy moment for the founders. Right, those 3 months were very busy, and I had a developer who was at me, day and night that he needs graphical mocking. Right? And we didn't have any developer bandwidth back then. There were a couple of interns in Requestly only. So I took this to myself, and I basically I didn't want to build this feature because I was really busy, in a lot of other stuff. There were sessions, there were so many things happening back then. But then there was no bandwidth. But then we had this principle, someone is asking for a feature and it makes sense to the product. Somehow I built that feature, and fortunately we built that feature. Like today, Request is the only Chrome extension that offers GraphQL interception and GraphQL mocking, and now we are also offering GraphQL API client as well. And with the help of that feature, like we were able to onboard multiple enterprise customers.
It's so nice to see how people use the product, right, in the most weird and wonderful ways. That kind of just sticks with you and probably also leads on to like amazing, one of its kind features to have in your products. It's really good to see. We have a question in the QA that we have two, but okay, let's go one by one. What does it take apart from personal skills or grit to get from having an idea to making into a successful company?
Yeah, and it's a very good question. Uh, I think personal grade slash skills are teachable. So even if you don't have that, don't worry. And I'll just take a step back. I think you don't have an idea, you have a problem. So start with the problem, not with an idea, right? And especially start with the problem which you face every day or every week, or someone closer to you face every day, every week, right? Once you have that sort of core insight about the problem, right? A lot of good companies are built around, great insights. So once you have that insight about the problem, that why it's happening, like this is not good, this is not efficient, you have a problem with that, right? Once you have that problem, once you have that inside the heart, that no, it should be something different, right? It should be built slightly differently, right? Or it should be solved differently, right? Then that is the moment, right? Your company is born. So once you find the problem, right, then uh, the right way is, or basically at least my way is to don't spend time, researching, who else has the problem. If you have the problem, there are hundreds of you as well outside there. You just have to find them. So build a MVP and launch it, and try to see who is your target audience, where do they live, how do you find them, and just try to live there. Just try to, like, it could be LinkedIn, or it could be Twitter, or it could be other Slack community. Just try to find where your TG is, target group is, and then try to live there, and then just keep sharing the product that you are building, keep sharing the problem that you are solving. One problem, or one mistake that I see a lot of people make, and we also made, is we put building and talking about it in sequence, or basically marketing in sequence. That is not how it's supposed to happen. I mean, it's slightly inefficient according to me. So the way a solopreneur should do is you keep building the product and you keep talking about it, right? Just think about that you're doing it this in vacuum. No, even if no one is listening, just be persistent about it. So once that happens and you start getting some initial set of users, customers, that is your company building journey or process, right? And then once you get some dollar signs or revenue signs, then you start figuring out, okay, how do you convert this into a money making machine, right? And then you have to keep everything in check, your sort of product requirements, your revenue requirements, everything. If you imbalance anything, if you build something which is not going to generate money, you will get impatient and you will shut down the product, right? Or the other way around, if you try to monetize too extensively, then you will shoo away so many users. So you have to strike a fine balance, and it's very subjective to how do you define the balance. And then company building is a phase by phase uh, journey. And the way I look at it is like a game. If you have played a game, there are levels. So you just focus on the next level that I'm playing, it's a Mario. I have to go to level 2 only, and then when you enter into level 2, then you think about going to level 3. You can't optimize for multiple variables in a company building journey. It's very hard.
I think that's a fun answer. I like your amazing analogies in general, from sharpening the axe to a Mario gaming one where you could correlate. So I think that's really cool. I think it'll help people remember all the wisdom that you imparted. We have one more question because I think we're also close to our time. We have one more question. So how did Requestly decide to monetize the features, right? So like how does it decide which to keep paid versus free?
Yeah. I think it is a very good question, and it is very hard question as well, especially for our developer tool, because developers don't like to pay in general, right? So the way we did was, and I think mostly true for many companies, is doing uh, trials. It, hit and try, right? So basically, what in the early days, what we did was we launched a pricing plan, like just pricing page, and we just communicated to our users that we are introducing our pricing, and this will be applicable from actually even before that, we ran a survey within the product that Requestly will be paid after this date. Would you be willing to pay? How much would you be willing to pay? And what are the features would you be willing to pay for? Like something like that, right? I mean, it was totally random list of questions that we were hoping give us some insights. And actually they did, right? And once we collected that research data from roughly 2,000 to 3,000 people, right, then we launched a pricing page with some insights from that survey. And then we sort of communicated to our users outside the product as well, like email list, social media, etc., that in order to sustain the company and the long-term goals, etc., uh, Requestly will be on a freemium model after this date, and we gave ample time, right, like 3-4 months of time, and then we sort of broadcasted this. Then we sort of got some inbound messages from users, that this should be free, this should be free. I'm using Requestly for my personal use case, etc., etc. That again gave some insights. And so far, we have not changed anything in the product. And after that, it took some experiments in the product for which people would actually pay for. So we made changes in the pricing plans, and then experimented with that, we talked to users, and then eventually came up with the final price. So there are so many experiments that have gone in the past.
Thank you, Sachin. I think our time is almost up. But this was, I think, very, very insightful. So thank you so much for joining and giving us all the knowledge that you have. And yeah, we have a poll question. Everyone, if you see on your screen, please help answer. If you're open to trying Requestly, you would want to evaluate, or you just have a POC, please let us know. We'll be more than happy to help you. It's always good to try something and see how much time it saves or how easy it makes your life on a day-to-day basis. Okay, I think we are good to go. Please answer the poll if you still haven't. Also, please join our Discord channel if you still haven't. We have one more question for you. We have some upcoming events. They're going to be a lot of fun. We're planning a community day, which is going to have some interesting line of speakers there. Yeah, and we also have another event on getting to know like how do you want to master your web quality. So there's some interesting events coming up. Um, just curious to know what you'd like to join in. Also, please join our Discord channel if you haven't, because we have a lot of these questions, announcements, discussions, product launches, alpha launches, buzz about all our products as well, and a lot of community related content, wisdom is what we're building out as well. So it's going to be a good knowledge base for everyone. Okay. Thank you everyone for joining in today from all over the place. Appreciate you giving the time. Thank you so much, Sachin, for taking the time to be very candid and honest about your journey and opinions. I'm sure a lot of folks learned a lot from it. I definitely did. It was really nice having this conversation with you.
Thank you, Puja, and thank you, everyone.
Thank you, folks.